Good morning, students. Today we will discuss our another lecture of design of machine element, and we will continue our previous topic, that is design of spring. And today we will start our discussion from design of helical spring. So let's start with the procedure for designing of helical spring. So this is a basic diagram given for a helical spring. Few nomenclatures also given here, which I have mentioned here for your reference, that this is capital D. Capital D is the mean diameter of spring coil. Small d is diameter of spring wire. This is small d, that is diameter of spring wire. N equals to number of active coils. I have already discussed about these points in your previous lecture. G equals to modulus of rigidity for spring material, and W is axial load on the spring, which is mentioned here, and tau is maximum shear stress induced in the wire, where C is equals to spring index, P is equals to pitch of the spring, and del equals to axial deflection in the spring. So these are the few nomenclatures which will be related to the design of helical spring. Now it start with the discussion part, that is the design procedure. So starting from that, the first point that is have to be considered for the designing purpose, that is the applied axial load produces the twisting moment in the spring while compressor of spring. That means the axial load, that is W, when is being produces on the wire or on the spring, then it generally produces the twisting moment in the spring wire and compression of spring, hence torsional shear stress induced in the spring. So due to this, torsional shear stress is also being induced in the spring. So we have to calculate that the torsional stress. So before calculating this torsional stress, we have to find out the torque. So the torque will be equals to load into radius, that will be load is axial load is given by W here, and the radius will be given by diameter by 2, so W into D by 2. Torque can also be written by this formula, that is pi by 16 into tau 1 into dq, where tau 1 is torsional shear stress, and this can be equated with W into D by 2. From there we can easily rearrange the equation, and we can write tau 1 equals to 8WD by pi dq. So this will be our ultimate equation for torsional shear stress. In addition to torsional shear stress, direct shear stress are also induced in the spring due to axial load W. Hence, since there is also a direct shear stress due to the load W, that is the axial load, so we have to calculate that direct shear stress also. So let us denote that direct shear stress by a sign, that is T2. So T2 will be equals to load by cross sectional area. So load will be W, and by cross sectional area will be pi by 4 into D square. So on rearranging the equation, we get tau 2 equals to 4W by pi D square. So this will be our torsional shear stress, and this will be our direct shear stress. So now we have to accumulate both two stresses, since from the above equation we can determine resultant shear stress without considering the effect of curvature on the stress. So since there is no effect of curvature on the stress, so we can easily calculate the whole stress by adding both these two stress. So that's why I have written here tau equals to tau 1 plus tau 2. So tau 1, we have put the value of tau 1 8WD by pi dq, and value of tau 2, that is 4W by pi d square. We are taking common, that is the term, that is 8WD by pi dq. From both these terms, we can easily get this term 1 plus d by 2d in common. So on solving this, d by d is already know that we know that C equals to capital D by small d, and that is C. What is C here? C is the spring index. So in place of d by d, we have put the value, that is C. So on calculating or rearranging the equation, we get tau equals to Ks into 8WD by pi dq. So what is Ks here? So Ks is equals to 1 plus 1 by 2C. And what is Ks? Ks is the shear stress factor, which is given by the equation 1 plus 1 by 2C. So this is the shear stress factor Kc. So finally we get the equation tau equals to Ks into 8WD by pi dq. But when shear stress or when stress due to curvature of wire is to be considered, then the shear stress becomes tau equals to k into 8w by pi dq. That means we won't have to take that shear stress factor. That means only stress due to curvature of wire is to be considered, then the shear stress. That means there is no particularly included that shear stress is acting on that object. If only stress is being considered, then at that point of time we can't take this shear stress factor. Rather, we have to calculate this k in place of that ks. And what is k here? K is Wahl's stress correction factor. What will be the k? Then k will be the Wahl's stress correction factor. And this will be the final equation when simply stress is considered for the designing procedure. And what is k is also given by this equation, that will be k equals to 4c minus 1 divided by 4c minus 4 plus 0.615 by c. And what is c here? C is the spring index. So this will be our final term when simply stress is considered, and this will be our final equation when shear stress is being considered. And when shear stress is being considered, then the constant term will be given by ks, that will be shear stress factor. And when only simply stress is considered, at that point of time the constant term that will be denoted by k, and that will be Wahl's stress correction factor. So now what is Wahl's correction factor? So Wahl's correction factor will be, in the design of helical spring or in the design of helical compression spring, the determined shear stress are without considering the effect of curvature of spring. So while we design the helical compression spring, we normally does not consider the shear stress or without the considering the effect of curvature of spring. These stresses are induced in the spring due to application of the axial load W on the spring only. These stresses are inducing, that means ये stresses जो भी होता है वो किस वजह से इंड्यूस होता है? ड्यू टू द एप्लीकेशन ऑफ एक्सियल लोड W only. While manufacturing of the helical compression spring, the spring wire is to be bent in the helical coil. Obviously, if we have to design a helical spring, then we have to bend that in a proportion of helical shape. So the helical compression, the spring wire is to be bent in the helical coil. This curvature increases the stress on the inside of the spring, and at the same time decreases the stresses on outside of the spring. Due to arranging the spring in this shape or arranging the coil, or have to bend the coil in this shape, so the curvature increases the stress on inside of spring, whereas at the same time it decreases the stress on outside of spring. Thus the length of inner fiber is less than the length of outer fiber. Due to this reason, the length of inner fibers is less than the length of outer fiber. This results in stress concentration at inside fibers of the coil, and this curvature effect is considerably larger for high values of spring index. Hence, Wahl's correction factor is introduced in this equation. Due to this fact, the Wahl's correction factor is introduced, and this is given by this equation, that is tau equals to k into 8wd by pi dq, which we get from the design of helical spring. So what will be the, I have already told you that is k equals Wahl's correction factor, and this can be given by this equation, that is 4c minus 1 by 4 minus 4 plus 0.615 divided by c. Wahl's correction factor may also be considered as composed of two sub factors as shear stress factor and stress concentration factor due to wire curvature. So k can also be break into two parts, that is k equals to ks into kc, where ks will be shear stress factor and kc will be stress concentration factor. Spring index C will be, I have given you a table here, that is spring index with Wahl's correction. If the spring index will be 3, then the Wahl's stress factor will be 1.58, if 4, 1.45, 1.31. There are certain values of spring index and related values of Wahl's correction factor due for that. That means we have to simply put the value of spring index in this equation, and on calculating putting the value and calculating whole equation by putting each terms, so then we will get this Wahl's correction. So I have calculated few terms which is given in this table. Now coming to the next topic, that is deflection on helical spring. So deflection on helical compression spring will be, the axial deflection on the spring can be determined by theta equals to del equals to theta into d by 2. So from, as we know that in the subject strength of materials, we have gone through that the moment equation, that is m by I theta by j. So from that we also studied that the torsion equation, and torsion equation gives you that T by J equals to G theta by L. This we get from the torsion equation. So upon arranging the equation, we get theta equals to T into L by J into G. we know that T equals to torque is given by the formula which I have already discussed earlier, that is T equals to W into D by D, and L will be given by, that is the length is pi into D into N, and J will be the section modulus. J is here section modulus, and it will be given by the formula pi by 32 into D to the 4. All these formulas are studied in the subject strength of materials. So on putting all these values in the above equation, this equation, we get the value that is theta equals to W into D by 2 into pi into D into N divided by J into pi by 32 into D to the power 4. On rearranging the equation, we get theta equals to 16 W D square N by G D to the power 4. So now putting the value of theta in the above equation, that is the equation of del. So on putting that, we get the value that is del equals to 16 into W D square N by G D to the power 4 into D by 2. And arranging this 8 W D Q N by G T to the power 4, and again on putting D in place of D by D, we are putting the value of C to the power Q, that means the spring index. As we all know that C equals to D by D, so expressing this equation in terms of spring index, and we will get this equation. So we can easily consider this equation if spring index is given. If spring index is not given, or we don't want to calculate we don't have to calculate the value of spring index, then we can consider the equation. So both the equations are for the deflection. We can consider any of this equation. So now deflection per active turn. If deflection, we have to calculate the deflection per active turn, then that can be given by theta by del by N, and del by N will be 8 W CQ by J into D. Simply replace N in here, then we can get the value of deflection per active turn. So this was the topic, that is the deflection on helical spring. Now we will study about the topic, that is the energy stored in helical spring of circular wire. So the energy is not stored in spring material beyond the elastic limit. That means beyond elastic limit, the energy or the any type of energy or potential or any type of energy is not stored in any type of spring or in a helical spring. There will be a straight line of load deflection. The energy stored in the spring can be given by the formula, that is U equals to half into W into del. Maximum shear stress induced in this spring is Q equals to K into W D by pi dq. This I have written here Q. You can simply write tau also. In place of Q, you can write tau. So W equals to pi into tau or Q dq by 8K D. So deflection of shear spring, we can easily consider this formula here. So deflection will be del equals to 8WD into N dq by G D to the power 4. So on putting these values on this equation, that is the energy equation, we can easily calculate that 1 by 2 into pi Q dq by 8KD into 8W and dq by G to the power 4. We have to put the value of W again. So on putting the W again here, we will get the value of U as like this. So on rearranging the equation, we get the value of U as Q square by 4GK square into V. So what is V here? So V is the volume of spring wire, where V can be given by the formula pi dN into pi by 4 into D square. When a load P falls on a spring through all height h, then the energy absorbed in the spring will be given by U equals to P into H plus del, and that will be equated with the equation half into W into del, where W equals to equivalent static load, that is gradually applied load, which shall produce the same effect as by failing load P, and del equals to axial deflection produced in the spring. So this is all about the energy stored in a helical spring. Now let us suppose if a spring is connected in series, then what will be the effect of this? So when spring are, you can see from the figure that it is connected in spring series connection. It is connected in series. So on series, when the spring are connected in series, then total deflection produced by the spring is equal to the sum of deflection of the individual spring. That will be total deflection will be the sum. The individual sum of each element accumulately provide you the total deflection. So if W is the load carried by the spring, del 1 is a deflection of spring 1, del 2 deflection of spring 2, S1 stiffness of spring 1, that will be given by the formula W by del 1, and S2 stiffness of spring 2, that will be given by the formula W by del 2. So from the above statement we can write that del equals to del 1 plus del 2. On putting the value of del, W by S equals to W by S1 plus W by S2. So 1 by S equals to 1 by S1 plus 1 by S2. This will ultimately give you the relation of stiffness when the springs are connected in series. Now if the springs are connected in parallel, so when the springs, you can write, you can get it through that through this figure, that springs are connected in parallel. So if springs are connected in parallel, then total deflection produced by the spring is same as the deflection of the individual spring. That means the total deflection will be equal to the deflection of each spring. That will be given by the equation del equals to del 1 equals to del 2. So upon considering this point, we can get that load share by both spring is W equals to W1 plus W2. That means in place of W we can write by the formula, that is del into S equals to del 1 into S1 plus del 2 into S2. So upon rearranging the equation, we get S equals to S1 plus S2. So ultimately this is the equation when the springs are connected in parallel. Now considering one most important term, that is buckling. We already have gone through this term, that is the buckling of compression spring. So experimentally it is found that when free length of spring is more than 4 times the mean or pitch diameter, then spring behaves like a column and may fall by buckling at a comparatively low load. That means when free length of spring is more than 4 times of mean or pitch diameter, when the free length is more than the pitch diameter or more than 4 to 5 times of pitch diameter, at that point of time the springs behaves like a column and it might fall or might fail by buckling at comparatively at low load also. That means at high load it may fail, but at low load it also fail when the free length is less than or more than 4 times of its pitch diameter or mean diameter. So at that point this is the fixed end, this is the guided end. You can go through these figures and we can easily consider that this is the fixed end and this is the guided end. So on considering this, the critical axis or critical axial load that causes the buckling in spring, it is WCR, that means the critical load is S into KB into L into F, that is S equals to spring rate or stiffness, that is given by W into del. LF equals to free length of spring and KB equals to buckling factor, that is LF by D, that can be given. So that at that point the critical load can be given by this formula. So method to avoid the tendency of buckling of compression spring. So how to avoid this buckling phenomenon? So to avoid the tendency of buckling of spring may mounted on center rod or in tube. Springs should be mounted in a center rod or in a tube. When spring is located in the tube, then the clearance between the tube walls and the spring should be kept as small as possible to allow for increase in diameter in compression of spring. So ultimately, if we have to avoid this tendency of buckling, we have to mount the spring on a center rod or in any tube. So now the another one terms which mainly familiar to us for the while considering about spring, that is surge in spring. So what is surge in spring? When one end of spring is resting on the rigid surface and a load is suddenly applied on the other end, that means one end is resting and a certain load is applied on the other end, then all the coils of spring will not suddenly deflect equally. Some time is required to propagate the stress along the coils of spring. At that point of time, the stress will not be propagated similar or in a constant way throughout the pipe, obviously, and it will take some time to propagation. In this case, the coil in contact with the suddenly applied load takes up the whole deflection. That means where load is being applied, at that side the whole stress or load will take the deflection and then transmit a larger part of deflection to the adjacent coil, and it will provide the larger part of deflection to its adjacent coil. This will create the resonance in the spring, and hence this will create the resonance in spring. This results in very large deflection of coil and correspondingly very high stresses. It causes the failure of spring. Obviously, due to this whole phenomenon, a large deflection of coil is being produced, and due to that a high stress is also produced, and hence failure of spring is being phenomenon. So, and this is called this whole phenomena is called the surge in spring. So, in a simpler word, if we define what is surge in spring, then we can say that means if one end of spring is resting and if a load is suddenly applied on the other spring, at that point of time, what will happen? Point of time, the stress or the load will not propagate at a initial or at a moment throughout the spring, and it will take some time, and due to this time the deflection will increase to its adjacent coil frequently. So due to this increment of deflection, a large stress will induce, and this will ultimately fail the spring phenomenon, and this is accumulately known as surge in spring. So what are the, now you study what are the methods to avoid surge in spring. So by using the spring of high natural frequency, we can avoid the surge in spring by using friction dampers on the center coils, by using the spring having pitch of coil near the ends different than at the center to have different natural frequency. These are the few steps which can be used to avoid surge in spring. I hope you understand all these phenomena what we have discussed today, that is the design of helical spring, what are the deflection in helical spring, and what is the energy being stored in helical spring, spring in parallel, spring in series, buckling, compression in spring, surge in spring, what are the methods to avoid these tendencies. So I hope you have gone through all these. Let us you just make a self notes of it, and if you have any query then let me know, and in the next class we will discuss about design and construction of leaf spring. So I hope you understand. Thank you for your attention in the class.